Hello and welcome to Teacher's Notes. This new video is about saying verbs and reporting verbs. So what are saying and reporting verbs? Well, there are three categories of verbs: action verbs, saying verbs, and thinking verbs. Action verbs, for example, play, run, write, swim. Saying verbs, say, tell, ask, and thinking verbs, think, wonder, consider. So in this video, we'll be looking at verbs, saying verbs, which are the same as reporting verbs. The difference between calling a verb a saying verb or a reporting verb is if we're using it for direct speech or indirect speech. Saying verbs we use with direct speech. Jane answered, I've been to Japan. I will take you to the zoo, promise, Peter. Okay. Indirect, we're using reported speech. Okay. Actually, they're the same words as you see: answered and answered, promised and promised, insisted, insisted. But indirect speech, we're using those verbs to report what someone has said. In direct speech, we're using them to show what someone says. Why should we use different reporting verbs or different saying verbs? Well, by using different words, we can make our writing more interesting. We can make our writing more precise. We can add opinions to your writing. And also, if you're preparing for a test, you can get a higher score in your writing assignment. Now here's some very useful vocabulary for saying verbs, and of course they can also be used as reporting verbs. Growled, cried, groaned, moaned, grumbled, complained, whined, shouted, screamed, yelled, whispered, laughed, chuckled, giggled, ordered, exclaimed, interrupted, asked. And it's much better using these words rather than just saying Peter said, Jane said, he said, she said. Much better to use these. Gives the reader a better idea of exactly how the phrase was said. Much better. Here are some more very, very useful verbs, saying verbs and reporting verbs. Warn, accuse, deny. If you're not familiar with any of these words, I suggest you go online, Google them, and find out the meaning, because they are very, very useful words, and they should be used by all English language learners. So looking at direct speech, saying verbs in direct speech, how do we use it? Well, actually, it's very easy to use. You just need to be careful with your punctuation. So we use speech marks, which are also known as inverted commas or quotation marks. We use them at the beginning and the end of what is being said. Another rule to remember: new speaker, new line. Every time you have a new speaker, you must move to a new line. Capital letters at the beginning of what is being said. Okay, very important. Even though it's not possibly the beginning of a sentence, you still need a capital letter at the beginning of what is being said. Okay? Remember to add commas. Okay? And like I said, make sure it is correctly punctuated. Now here we have some examples of correctly punctuated. Jane answered, comma, speech marks, and then what she says, and you notice the full stop is inside speech mark. Okay? Second example, speech mark, I will take you to the zoo, comma, speech mark, promised Peter. Next one, I like ice cream too, exclamation mark, insisted Jane. So you notice that insisted is a small I because it's part of the same sentence, even though there's a exclamation mark before. Okay? What time will it end? Questioned Julie. Again, we have a question mark there, but it's followed by a small letter, not a capital letter. That's because it's still the same sentence. Okay? And Alex argued, comma, this is the wrong way to solve the problem. Full stop. Close speech marks. So there are the examples of how speech marks, punctuation needs to be used correctly in direct speech. Now it's your turn. So, here are 3 sentences, short conversation, and I'd like you to write these sentences using the words above: admit, advise, and warn. So you need to write them, you need to add the correct punctuation, you need to say that the person admitted it, advised it, or warned it. Okay, I'll give you a minute. If you're not yet finished, please press pause on the video as I'm about to show you the answers. So here we go. This is how those sentences will be correctly punctuated. You see there, I don't think you should play football today, comma, close speech marks, advised Jane. You're right, I'm still a bit ill, comma, admitted John. Jane warned, comma. Good. Because you ran around too much in this way, you feel much worse tomorrow. Okay, so I hope you got your punctuation correct on those ones. Like I said, with direct speech, what you really need to be careful about is punctuation. The grammar is pretty straightforward, but you need to be careful with your punctuation. Indirect speech, reported speech, is when we do not use speech marks. Instead, we report what someone says. And the grammar for this is a little bit trickier. You need to be careful with the grammar. So here's the example. I fell down the stairs. He said that he had fallen down the stairs. So it's when we report what someone else has said. We use this in conversation a lot. We also use it in writing as well. So here we go. Indirect speech using said. Okay, so these are very simple sentences using said. Jane said, I've been to Japan twice. Jane said that she had been to Japan twice. And we've noticed the verb tense change. I will go to the zoo. Peter said that he would take her to the zoo. We notice will changes to would. I like ice cream too, said Jane. Jane said he liked ice cream too. And again, the like, the verb changes. Okay? There's another video all about the correct grammar for reported speech. So if you're not familiar with that, I suggest you click on the link here and watch that video, and that will explain it in full details. This is just a review. Present simple past, present continuous, past continuous, past simple, past perfect, present perfect, past perfect, can, will, could, would, should, could, would, should. But how about all those other verbs that we were talking about? Well, here is the answer to that. And it does take a bit of practice. So deny is followed by a gerund, verb ing. Suggest is also followed by a gerund. Okay? He suggested going to the doctor. He denied going to the doctor. He admitted going to the doctor. He insisted that going to the doctor was the right thing. Declared that going to the doctor. Announced that going to the doctor. Okay? So they're all followed by gerund ing. Okay? These ones on the other side, promise, refuse, threaten, they're followed by the present simple tense of the verb, verb 1, okay? Promise to go to the doctor, refuse to go to the doctor, threaten to go to the doctor, okay? Order someone to go to the doctor, advise someone, beg someone to go to the doctor, accuse someone of going, okay? So you'll need to spend a bit of time practicing that and remembering that and how to use those reporting verbs correctly. Okay, but a bit of practice and it will all make sense and it will become very easy. And here's a little challenge, a little practice for you to see how you get on. So we have Mr. Jones here. He's the teacher in our school, and these are 6 things which he said. And I would like you now to write these using the correct verbs. Write them as direct speech and as indirect speech. So you'll have 12 answers. Okay, so Mr. Jones, and you have to choose whether he admitted it, he boasted it, he forbid it, he ordered it, he suggested it, or he threatened it. Okay, so you have 6 sentences, direct speech, and then 6 sentences, indirect speech, using those 6 verbs. Okay, you might want to press pause on the video. I'm about to go to the answers. So if you're not ready, just hit the pause button. And the answers, well, actually the answers are in the comments below. So I'm afraid you have to scroll down to the comments below and then you'll be able to see the answers to those 12 sentences. I do hope this has helped. Like I said, using reporting verbs and saying verbs makes your writing a lot more interesting and a lot more precise, and if you're preparing for a test, you'll get a great score. I hope this has helped. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe and please do click like.